When you discover that the person collecting your rent may not even have permission to sublet the apartment, that's exactly what Judge Judy is dealing with in this case. Landlord Zigkeyeah rented out her furnished apartment to Kimmie and Katina White. But there was one major problem. She never had written permission from her own landlord to sublet the property. Once the tenants discovered this, they stopped paying rent. But Judge Judy wasn't about to let them use that situation as an excuse to live there for free. Quickly turns into a serious rent dispute. The Whites argued that they stopped paying because the sublease itself was unauthorized. And technically, that raised a major question about Zigkeya's right to collect rent. But Judge Judy focused on something much simpler. The tenants were still living in the apartment. In the judge's view, you can't continue occupying someone else's property while deciding that you simply don't have to pay anyone. The tenants had a problem with the arrangement. But withholding rent completely created an even bigger problem. If the tenants believed Zigkeyeah had no legal right to collect the rent, they still had options. Instead of keeping the money and continuing to live in the apartment, they could have attempted to direct their rent payments to the actual building owner. That's why Judge Judy was so critical of their actions. From her perspective, refusing to pay rent while remaining in the apartment effectively turned the tenants into squatters. The courtroom now has to deal with two separate problems: the unauthorized sublet and the unpaid rent. This case reveals an important lesson for both landlords and tenants. A landlord who sublets a property without permission can create serious legal problems, but tenants also can't simply decide to stop paying rent while continuing to live in the property. Judge Judy's message is clear. If you believe your landlord is breaking the rules, you need to handle the dispute through the proper legal channels. Because in this courtroom, one questionable lease agreement has now turned into a much bigger fight over who was actually entitled to the rent and who was responsible for paying it.